authentic, be accountable, be disciplined.
What we're doing today and what Alpha Endurance even means of, making things more of a lifestyle and making it just part of what you do. Changing your life into a position where being healthier, doing challenging things, holding yourself accountable to a standard that you've created for yourself, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, you can just pivot it and still feel super accomplished afterwards. And it's hard to do sometimes when you have goals set. I need to hit this. I need to hit this. But like you were indicating of, you don't have to go by a structure, but it's, hey, I'm out of town, but I can still bring running shoes. I can still get a sweat on. I can still do something that's productive that we always talk about. There's no run I've ever finished and not felt accomplished. Really no workout in general where you're like, hey, I did something. I burned some calories. I got a little uncomfortable, and doing that as part of your everyday life, no matter where you are, I think is a big part of this and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all part of like the experience. I mean, of going somewhere and doing something you've never done before in a place you've never been and having that experience is what it's all about. You use the word uncomfortable, and we use that word obviously all the time. Being uncomfortable on purpose has some magic to it that I don't think you can recreate any other place or any other way. You're purposely putting yourself in an uncomfortable, safe, but uncomfortable situation, and that just has so many things in life that you can use for the future. And I can't describe it in any other way other than purposely putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and then the feeling you have afterwards and what that is able to bring for the future and for other things that you have in your life. The smaller things that may feel like bigger things in life then don't feel so big because they end up actually being smaller. So being uncomfortable on purpose, purposely putting yourself in uncomfortable situations from a exercise standpoint, again, certainly safety, and there's all things that you have to do that way, I think is it's got some magic. I can't explain maybe why. I don't have the scientific degrees in the backgrounds of all of the chemicals that go through your body and your brains afterwards, but it's of like nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I tell people that a lot. I don't believe it's by coincidence that I feel a lot less stressed in life now than I did before I changed my lifestyle. Maybe some of that is just situational of we've made a lot of changes with work and what we're doing with our businesses and company, personal life, but I don't think it's separate in that I do this on a daily basis, every day. It's on my mind. I've surrounded myself with people that do this on a daily basis, and it's on their mind. And it just tends to gravitate towards, putting a lot of energy there, like you said, rather than in the small problems, and they don't overwhelm you as much. I've been fortunate. I've never been riddled with anxiety or depression and things like that. I've had some low lows in my life, but now I look at it as, I've done some pretty hard shit, and I've done some things that were really uncomfortable, one of which a week and a half ago, that I look at the little things now just a lot differently. And I don't let them overwhelm me. I don't let them stress me out as much, and just kind of roll with the positive vibes, in the path that I know is a better fit for me. I mean, we've talked about it in podcasts. We've talked about it to friends, family. We've talked about it of, when you do this, it's a lot harder to have the mental capacity for those little things in the stress. You're more tired, you're worn out, you sleep better. It makes every facet of your life a little better. So then I think you just naturally move up the happiness food chain a little bit, where you're just, when you do this, it just has a trickle effect on everything.
Yeah, everything that you're around and everything you touch. And I think that that's kind of part of why we've got Alpha Endurance as an LLC, and we're trying to spread different things with these races and all of the things that we're doing with Alpha Endurance is because we're trying to spread it to more people because of how good we feel when we do these things. We've been doing them, I've been doing these things to some degree almost my whole life, and you feel so amazing. You come in ups and lows of highs and lows of when you do and don't do things, but the whole point of it is to kind of spread the magic to everybody else. There's no financial gain for this at this point. We are doing this purely out of the funness of our own selves, and to be able to spread that and be able to help somebody else with that because it's such a community thing. You know, a lot of what we're doing is a communal thing of other people are doing it with you. It might be a small percentage of people that you know or that you run into, but it is such a good thing to do with other people as well as by yourself. So there's two parts of that, but I think that that's kind of part of why we wanted to brand this and let's put an LLC behind it. Let's start to try to spread the word a little bit more so that we can share that experience with other people and that maybe other people can feel somewhat the same way.
I think formalizing some of what Alpha Endurance is going to do, a portion of it is sanctioned races, sanctioned events, we'll call it. We have a triathlon. We're going to do a sprint triathlon. We have a trail race we're going to do. We have a bike race we're going to do. And we're going to start to just try to put those options out there for people, because a lot of times it's just signing up and knowing what to do, and it's in that area, what's in this area. We don't live in a place that has a robust health and wellness community. We've talked about that a lot of, I'd love to change that and bring that here where somebody says, I really want to get into this, but we don't live in a place that does that. If Alpha Endurance can have some sanctioned events that people can train for, look forward to, be motivated, setting goals, I think is so important. I've set a lot. We set a ton of them all the time and try to just knock them down. And I think if we can create some of those opportunities for people, I think that'll go a long way for them and their overall wellness. And I mean, let's be real. There's nothing better than helping people. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. And it's not a feeling that we want to pat on the back. I don't want to pat on the back or I'm no better than anyone else, but to be able to do what we love to do with the utmost authenticity. It's no bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit out there with a lot of people that are doing things to rep a product that they're getting paid for, getting some kickback for. This is simply based off, this is exactly who I am and exactly what I want to be. And it's as authentic as it comes. And if I can just be my authentic self, and it has 3, 4, 5, 10, 100, who knows, people that want to say, yeah, I want to take a step in that lane. I want to get in that lane. I want to try it. It's just all positive vibes. It's positive energy. There's no downside to it. Yes, he said safety, health, risk. There's things like that.
Certainly.
But as a whole, what it can do to your life, if we can have this company shine some light on that and be a resource to get people to gravitate in that direction, it's worth it just by doing that.
Yeah, I've said it before. It's doing it before the thank you. You're not doing it for the thank you, but you're doing it before the thank you. That feeling that you get to be able to help somebody. You're not doing it for them to say thank you. You're not doing it for accolades. You're not doing it for any kind of financial reasons. We're not doing it for anything else other than there's this somewhat of a selfish, selfless part in there of it feels so good for me, you could be selfless for somebody else. And doing it before the thank you as a kind of somewhat of that catchphrase, it's just kind of like to your point, that's exactly what it's all about. And that's what we're trying to do to continue to promote this. And, doing just different things, like you said, around the community, around the area, and also to try to continue to, I think, to somewhat expand our own, how far can we go with this thing? How far can we go with our own journeys and our own lives? And I was can't help but think every time you were talking there is that I think that some people think, okay, hey, we both have completed half Ironmans, and we've completed these long bike rides, and we've completed these hikes to different places, and wow, I could never do that. I guess I just want to make sure I interject of the the failure piece of this or the doubt piece of this, that it doesn't have to be to the top of one of the 7 summits. It doesn't have to be this big major triathlon. There can be such little wins along the way that could build. But from the failure side of it, we've all failed. You failed, I failed. We're going to continue to fail, and you're going to have to get up and do it the next day anyways. So you win, the next day you still got to get up and do it. You fail, well, the next day you still got to get up and do it anyway. So why are we going to dwell, why doubt on these failures when they're going to come? Those are where you learn the most, and making sure that you understand it's going to come and it's okay that it does come. Because like I said, you're going to have to get up and do it the next day anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys both mentioned that you really enjoy helping people along this process of wellness and health. Conversation come about when you guys are like, "Hey, I want to do this, and I want to do this with you." Like, how do we get the plan for Alpha Endurance, the podcast, the races? How did you know, like, I want to do it, and I want to do it with him? How did that conversation
He married
start?
my sister. I don't have a choice.
I married his sister. I don't have a choice.
Really, and we can both talk about that a little bit. For me, we do business together with everything we do. And it wasn't really, we were joking when we said that, but I happened to be the one that got on and actually created an LLC online. And I just put ownership as 50-50. I didn't even ask. I didn't even tell. I texted him after and said, you're 50% owner of a new company. Because that's just how we roll. I told someone that recently of just a couple days ago having coffee of, yeah, DJ and I are, 50-50 involved with Alpha Endurance and equal partners in creating this mission and this path we want to do. And everything else we do with our construction companies and other companies that we're involved with is 50-50. And I just look at it as there's no way to get everyone's skin in the game unless that's exactly what you do. If it's like, well, I started this, I'm 60-40, I'm 70-30, it just has a bad taste in its mouth for it. I'm confident any cool adventure that DJ takes on, who knows where he can go and what he can do, that I'd probably be 50-50 of that. So we just have a joint relationship because we've been together for 25 years now, that it just naturally comes that way. He's my partner in anything I do, and that's just the way I plan on rolling. It's just one of those things when you can't trust more than family is how we look at it. We've had family businesses forever, and we've always looked at it as, when the rubber meets the road, having family involved with your business and your income and your path is just the path we like to roll with, and that's what we've done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to touch on the family part of it, the one fortunate part is that Brian and I were friends before I even met his sister, really. So that has kind of the foundation of a good, working partnership. And then, of course, as things progressed and as I, formally became a part of the family and, just was around a lot, we have then continued that relationship to really be a pretty successful partnership. And it is funny because he did, we've been talking. Alpha Endurance has been around before we started the LLC. We kind of formed it as a group of people that said, hey, we kind of keep training together. We're seeing all these other people at all these different events with all these cool swag together. Like, well, we want a group. Like, we're all training together. So we kind of somewhat came up with Alpha Endurance. And then I remember the day he basically said, yeah, I made it an LLC and you're 50-50. And it was just like, okay, like I wasn't surprised really that much, because it's one of those things that we just, we roll with things. I knew exactly what his mission was going to be for it. Sometimes he could take the lead on some things and then I get up to speed and then we're right into it, which kind of happened with the LLC. But then there are other times where I'm somewhat the same way, where I'm going to kind of take the lead and then he, bring him up as we kind of toe into it. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Like he said, we're business partners. We do everything together from a business standpoint. And, we work so well in the aspect of, we're talking about work in one instance, and then it's almost in the same breath. It's, well, what's happening with one of the kids? It's a business conversation at the dinner table on a constant basis. And that's how his family has always rolled, ever since I've been involved, even when I wasn't really involved in the business. And I like that environment, and it's such a great environment. So it was somewhat of a no-brainer. We work really well. We have a lot of similarities, but we got some dissimilarities that I think advantages us because we think of things a little bit differently in certain ways.
Good brother, bad brother.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
You got to play that a lot. If something's going real bad, we can blame each other and blame the other person and say it was his fault.
Yeah.
But, my uncle and dad had to do the same thing. They ran the business before DJ and I were involved, our other entities, not Alpha Endurance. And so they often talked about that, of having to play good brother, bad brother, and they each complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses, like you just began to indicate. Uh, my uncle could not have run the business himself. My dad could have not run their businesses himself. They needed each other. I feel exactly the same way now, that this business would not be successful with just me. This business would not be successful with just DJ. He has strengths that I don't have. I don't possess them. We've taken analysis tests, personality tests. We've done all that, but we know it now. We don't have to go to the script. We just know how each other roll with it, and it's complementing each other and accepting each other's strengths, not being too arrogant or self-involved to think, well, I can do that better, or I need to do that. It's like, he's better at this, so just do it. He's better at this, just do it. And that's, I think, makes a good partnership.
Yeah, you check your ego at the door. I mean, it's such a good life lesson for partnerships in any relationship. It doesn't have to be a business one. It doesn't have to be, a romantic one, or whatever. It's just you check your ego at the door, and we all know that we're in it for the right reasons for each other, and you just kind of move on. So yeah, it's something that is pretty special, and we're pretty fortunate to have. I think about it all the time, of of the luck and just the roll of the dice of how this whole thing worked and how it ended up being. I mean, my mom and his dad graduated high school together. They were one of 500, 550 people. They knew of each other, but didn't really know. And of course, one day that, their two sons were going to be together. It just, the whole thing is just, it's mind-boggling to think of how fortunate and lucky we are to kind of be in the situation we are, and to be able to, promote things. And, maybe one of us wasn't so much into the health and fitness space, so to speak, and these endurance spaces, but we are. And it has nothing to do with construction, which is what our business is right now.
Yeah.
So we're just all around pretty fortunate to be able to work together.
That's pretty cool. Now, I remember you guys saying you each have your own strengths. So when you guys move forward with a project, is this something kind of like how the LLC happened? Like, it's like, hey, I picked this up for us. I'm gonna need you to work on this, or do you guys sit together and say, what do you think about starting something like this or setting up a race like this? Is it?
Depends on whose idea it is.
Got it.
It's a big difference on whose idea it is. If it's something that I'm going to present to Brian, Brian's going to know that I've looked at every detail and probably every angle before I've even brought it to him. If Brian thinks of an idea, he probably thought of it yesterday and wants to run it by me. And wants to run it by me and see what we think. And we probably got a couple spots to look into first, which is not bad, right? I mean, because a lot of things die on the vine in my mind because I haven't gotten all the details. Where Brian is very good at, here's the idea, let's try to do it, let's see what else is out there, and kind of talks through it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a, I don't know how to phrase it, but just a mindset that I look at things of, we want to pursue a path, and I don't look at failure as an option. I look at, there'll be a crossroad, pick a road right now, and whatever's on that road will overcome. That's just the way I look at it. I don't get caught up as much in the details as DJ does. And I don't mean caught up in a negative way. He likes to analyze details. He's a has a lot of C personality from the disc analysis, that likes facts, likes details, likes to know it all, analyze prior. I'm big on, let's roll with it, and we'll cross those bridges. We get to the same result most all times. It's just we have a different strategy for it. So when it comes to this, I'm not going to analyze, do I think a gravel bike race is going to have a good turnout, and what are the ins and outs of the dollars and cents of putting on a gravel bike race? I already said we're doing a gravel bike race. Then we're going to figure out what it costs, and then we're going to figure out the ins and outs of it. That's just how my mind works, but there's no right or wrong. His approach or mine, I think it takes all approaches to have a successful entity or business. So, that's a lot of why we work well together, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think your biggest failure in regard to the LLC, the Alpha LLC. What do you think your biggest failure was and the lesson that came out of that?
Yeah, I mean we're in such an infancy phase here. We have maybe been to the fortunate of we haven't had a lot of failures, so to speak, quite yet. Um, so I guess I would say that I'm not sure if I really know of one quite yet, but
I would say a hurdle, I'll call it more than a failure, um, would be acceptance of people to want to get on board and want to make that change. I think it might be tough. It might be a tough sell to get people going, and they may be intimidated or think like, I can't get to here, because I'm here. And I think we might have a hurdle with trying to convince people that little changes make a difference and little things you can step in the right direction. I think people may dismiss the idea or the brand or the passion because they feel those guys are a little too intense for me. I can't do that, or I don't want to do that. So I think that definitely will be a hurdle that we're going to have to overcome and try to get people to understand that just because somebody wants to do an Ironman or go swim across Lake Erie or something like that, I don't downplay somebody that says, I want to go for a walk today. I don't downplay that, but I think that will be a little bit of a hurdle. And then just in the culture in the area we live in is a hurdle. We briefly had already mentioned that. I think that's going to be, and I won't call it a failure yet because, like we just indicated with my personality, I have no desire to fail. I don't plan on failing, but that we live in a place where it's not a massive focus to go do something healthy or check in early. Not drink those few extra drinks. Like those things just don't happen as much here as they do in some other communities I've been around.
So who would you say is your ideal client or future team member that you want to reach out to? Like the whole purpose of this is to reach out to other people. Who is that person? What do they look like? Where they're at? Where are they at in their lives?
I think from a selfish standpoint, it's the person that's not doing a whole lot. The person that, to Brian's point, maybe struggles to walk that mile or, walk up some steps, or maybe struggles to, get over the hurdle of, I can't run a half marathon. I can barely run a 5K. So it doesn't have to be somebody that's necessarily out of shape, or that's somebody that doesn't want to do something crazy, and that is afraid of failure. I think from a selfish standpoint of like trying to help somebody. So anybody that needs help. So I guess as I'm answering that question, there's so many different avenues that are going through my mind. There's that aspect of it. There's somebody that maybe looks like they might have it all together, but they could use another avenue to help them in their day-to-day basis, in their day-to-day life and all of those things. So I guess that would be my kind of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I went right to a very similar path of I can speak. I have a different journey than DJ in life, with just life, with relationships, with parents, with everything, with myself. DJ's been an athlete a lot longer than I have, a better athlete than myself. And I had to turn my life somewhat upside down. Speaking for you, you didn't really have to do that. You didn't have to turn your life upside down.
No.
So I was in a place where fairly unhappy with a lot of different things in my life, and then now can see the value to my relationships, my parenting, my family, my friends, my health, my body, my mind, my wellness, that I would love people that have those similar feelings where they're like, at the end of the day, I may portray that I'm pretty happy, but I'm a little dissatisfied with, I don't want to say depressed or this and that, but to be able to show these people that taking some changes and doing some things a little bit different can make all those things a lot better in your life. So that's where I focus a lot, and I talk to people, call me or text me, and we talk about like, hey, I want to get involved with this, or I want to get involved with that, and I love it. I love when I'm like, hey, here's some ideas, or here's some things, and people that are willing to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm just kind of going with the flow, but I'm not that happy. I'm not being authentic. We talked about that. The word authentic is really important to this brand, because I think when you change your life and take on some of these different habits and approaches, authenticity just comes out. You have to be raw. You have to be real. You are who you are when you're doing some of this stuff. There's no bullshit and fluff around it, for at least us, or the way I feel, that your true authentic self comes out, and that's when you can really look inward, get better as a person, try to improve, because we can all improve all the time. Self-reflection. I think if you're not being authentic and getting raw, that's a lot harder to do.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much out there that people can do that they don't think they can do. Obviously David Goggins has kind of made it somewhat, very famous of, whatever that percentage is of you think you can only go to here and you're really only 20% of what you can give. And, I think from, one of the other words that we use a lot is discipline. And I think if people were to understand that it's not about motivation and it's more about your discipline, you can do a lot more than you think you can do. There are so many more places that you can go and goals that you could achieve. And I think it's discipline. It's
Yeah.
there's the everyday or being consistent or whatever that is. And again, those can be small things. They don't have to be big. And that's part of what it is too.
Yeah, motivation just gets you to the door.
Yeah.
Discipline keeps you going. I have to use it all the time when I don't feel like doing stuff. And again, there's a lot of people that do a lot bigger, badder, harder shit than us. We're peons in the world of all this.
Yeah.
But I go back to, we're just being our authentic selves. We're doing what we can do, and we want to have now an entity and events and a culture and a community that can try to share in that and reap the value. Because like I said, we see it, we're living it, where it's like, damn, you feel good about this. Damn, you feel good about that. That's better. That's better. That's better. Like I said, for the last 2 years, I sleep like a rock. And we all know sleep is the best recovery tool that there is. So little things that might just, we're going to do regardless. And that's what I looked at to the question of, we're doing it regardless. Why not make it a little more public so some other people can get involved with that? And if it's not for them, no sweat. But I think they'll see a lot of benefits.
Yeah, because any of the crazy, quote unquote, people call crazy endurance things that I've done in my life, I have always felt in the back of my mind that it's not that crazy or that it's not really that hard to do, because if you just put the steps in place, it's going to eventually happen. Every time somebody tells me of like, man, I can't believe you did that, or oh, I can't believe you did this, or whatever it is, my first initial reaction is, but you could do that too. If you wanted to. I'm not saying you want to, and you don't need to want to. But you can tell when some people say it that they wish that they could, or that they do want to do that. And I think in my mind, it's like, you could do that though. Like, this is not crazy. Especially on some of these crazy things, crazy in quotation marks, crazy things that I've done. The size and shapes of people that we've seen that are doing these crazy things alongside of me are not what you think you would. So that's where I always think, coming back to, I guess, what I was thinking about when I was trying to say, talking about discipline. It's my first reaction of, I can't believe you've done that, or oh my gosh, have you done that? And if you really wanted to do that, you could do it too.
Yeah, it's between the ears.
Yeah.
It's all between the ears.
Mindset.
Having the mindset to do it and push yourself and set goals, all of it comes with the mind. Like you said, we see people at some of these events and things we've done where it's like, yeah, they're not, built like a marathon ultra runner, but they have the mind that's willing to say, I want to do this, I want to take it on. And that's what I think the biggest part of it is, for sure.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of scratching the surface and touching, but I want to ask the question directly. What do you think the pillars of Alpha Endurance is or are? We've been talking about discipline, motivation, mindset. Would those be all the pillars? What would you say?
Yeah, I think those certainly hit the pillars that are important to us. And like I said, we're not doing this for anything to make a bunch of money. We're not doing it to try to attract Joe Blow professional to want to get on board and promote our brand. This is simply, we're doing what we love to do, doing what we like to do. I'm finally feel like in my life, I'm being the authentic person that I've wanted to be. I never felt I was being overly unauthentic, but I hadn't found it. I hadn't found what actually motivates me and makes me happy and makes me feel comfortable in my skin. So for me, a huge pillar of Alpha Endurance is just that authenticity, that you can have for yourself. I think it's the best way to go. I think it's the only way to true happiness is being authentic. Too much phoniness out there.
Yeah, and the other A word that we haven't used a ton here is accountability and being accountable. And I think that's another one of our pillars to Alpha is being accountable, holding yourself accountable, holding those around you accountable. It is such a liberating thing to be accountable, and it feels kind of counterintuitive to say that out loud, but it totally is. If you are accountable in anything that you do, it's actually liberating. And I don't know what the best way to explain it is other than just to try it, to try to be somewhat holding yourself accountable. Because if you're holding yourself accountable, you're accepting that maybe you failed something. You're accepting maybe some of your defeats. You're accepting, hey, I didn't do that great on this, but I'm holding myself accountable and I'm going to do better the next time. Or maybe you're holding yourself accountable and like basically say, I'm not good at that, or I'm not going to be good at that, or whatever the case is. But to have some sort of falseness, it's almost like it's like a fake if you're not being authentic and accountable. There's a fakeness to it that is just it doesn't go well in the long run.
Your mind can get in your own head and fuck with your accountability more than anything. And it's just like even with addiction, and substances and people, your mind gets in there of like, well, I can just do one, or I can do a little bit, or I can do, and your mind just messes with you, and to be able to say like, no, I'm accountable that I am going to do this, and I agreed to do this, and I'm not negotiating with myself anymore. I think that's a big part of it that I've found joy in and enjoyment in, holding myself accountable. I like it. I like to hold myself accountable because it's just become part of what I like to do now. So,
and it's also tough, I talk about accountability. Sometimes it's hard to keep yourself accountable. Sometimes a lot of people are a little bit more successful with accountability when they have brought somebody else in.
yeah, team.
So, team accountability or partner accountability, whatever the case is, I big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk and Gary V, and he has famously said when I was listening to him a ton a few years ago, he always had a hard time with his health and fitness himself, and he had to hire basically a personal coach that he was doing it for himself, but he was basically doing it for the coach because he didn't like to let anybody down, and he signed up to do XYZ and X amount of goals, and he was literally doing it for that other guy because he already said he would do it for him, and it was his coach, and then that ultimately ended up coming back on him and helps. But again, team accountability doesn't have to be just yourself. It can be some other team of people.
A lot of people need a hype man, hype
Yeah.
woman, someone that gets them going, keeps them going. And if we can be that person for someone, we'd love to. Anybody that is feeling that they want to get moving, but they want a team. It's hard to do by yourself. A lot of this endurance type stuff is a solo sport. It's a solo journey. I train most of the time by myself, but it really keeps you going when you have that community that, I'm a little accountable to this group. I'm supposed to show up, or I have a role for this event, or things like that. So creating that, hype man and a team where we can help pull people along when their little mind on their other shoulders telling them not to do it, or telling them not, just sleep in. You don't need to do it. You can do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, on the subject of accountability and discipline, is that a trait you guys feel you've always had that we're pretty strong with, or is it something that developed later on? Kind of like, where did it come from? Was it a book?
I think we have
Was
two
it-
different answers.
Yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Definitely do.
I know his answer. For myself, no. I would say the answer is no. That I've definitely evolved more into it. I think it's some of what I mentioned, that I found a space that has created joy for me and happiness for me. And when you're in that space, you don't want to let yourself down. When you're loving what you're doing, you don't want to go half-ass. You're 100% in. I think that's a lot of why. And then I think, my upbringing and things that I had that I was very out of control with, I was always grasping for how can I get control. And there's no better control than accountability and self-discipline. That is the utmost control for yourself. So it just took time for me to get there. And I think some soul searching and changes where I've bounced my way through life, the good, the bad. I've made bad decisions. But I got to a place now where it's a priority to me. And I look back at a point in time for me that I think some of that began to switch over, and it was freshman year of college. I went to college, freshman year, intro to business, and it was the worst GPA I got through then 6 more years of college. I got my grades in, and I'm like, oh, wow, you sucked. And you didn't do good at the intro class to what your undergraduate degree was. And then I vividly remember saying, all right, I'm going to make this a point that I'm going to excel and I'm going to get better. And I started to look at exams in college of there's no reason I can't get 100. And so I think that was a shift in me when I saw that. You fuck around through high school and you're doing whatever and you're a kid. Looking back, it's like you don't know shit when you're that age. And then I started to say, like, I want to get 100. I want to be great. I want to be the best. And then I was able to, every GPA from there on out, freshman year began to increase. And I was able to build that cumulative GPA back up, and then went to grad school, and I was able to get a 4.0 through grad school because I was in a position where I was like, you can do it all. You're 100% capable of just be accountable, be disciplined, get it done. And then I just started to set that bar there where I wanted to do it. That was just an example of where I think it shifted in my life. But really, the last 2.5 years is when I made it at the forefront of all decisions in my life with my children, relationships, everything. That's when I started to really tie it all together.
Yeah, for me, it was somewhat always there. I was very fortunate to have, a mom and dad that basically instilled that in me from a very young age. I can remember my best example that I used for this is I had a friend when we were growing up, and he was a hunter. He was big in his mom actually ran the ski club, and didn't play a ton of sports. And I was good friends with him. And it was a Saturday morning. There was going to be his mom again ran the ski club. We were younger, but we were able to go because his mom was running the ski club. Again, it's just downhill snow skiing. I had practice Saturday morning, and I just remember. And again, this is I don't know if it's sixth grade, seventh grade. I mean, you're 12, 13, not very old. I mean, I just remember getting so much flack from him that I wouldn't even ask my parents because I didn't want to miss practice to go to ski club. He's like, it's just practice. And I'm like, yeah, but that's part of the gig. Like, I signed up for the team. You show up for every practice. So
I had to skip practice. 100% I had to skip practice. Yeah, just getting that out.
Yeah, and I don't know when you have something instilled in you at that young of an age, it's hard to say like this is when it's happened. It's almost always been there for me. Maybe it's made out of the respect for my parents. Maybe it's because it's just what they drilled into me. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle or a little bit of both. But I've always had that. I've had that from ever since I can remember. That took me all the way through high school, and certainly all the way through college. And it got to the point where I actually had to maybe, I don't want to say loosen the reins a little bit on it, but in my own mind, I had to get rid of a little bit of it of like, okay, it's okay if you don't do every single thing perfect and you don't do everything exactly like it should be. So I've actually had the struggles a little bit on the other end of it of like being too much to one side and just to be able to go with the flow a little bit. Because when you're in that mindset of, all right, you've got to do everything, make sure you're doing everything and check every single box, that's a pretty stressful place too, right? You can drive yourself crazy and go a little bit too far. So unfortunately or fortunately, everybody has their woes. So I've kind of had it somewhat from the get-go. I mean, in college, I played, well, let me back up. In high school, I played a ton of sports. I lettered in 4 high school sports my senior year. Had a full-time girlfriend. I know sometimes people don't like me to say that, but that's a time commitment there as well. And then in college, ended up playing 3 sports in college. Again, same full-time girlfriend ended up being my wife. And one of those sports teams was a college-run hockey team. And for the last 2.5 years, I ran the entire team. Now, I wasn't the coach, but any administration, any of the scheduling, any of the finances, all that went through me. And only reason I was able to do that was because of some of that accountability that my parents instilled in me from a young age of maybe you're not going to go out to that party, or maybe you're going to do this and you need to stay up a little late to do this because you're not going to have time 3 days from now because it's due in 4 days. And those are some of the things that again, fortunate for me, I think more than unfortunately, it was instilled in me from a young age, and just trying to keep that
Yeah,
going.
and you just look at it with your relationship with my sister.
Yeah.
I mean, that clearly demonstrates long term that you've had these types of traits for a long, long time, because you guys have been together since 8th grade, and you know that takes commitment, that takes
Ninth grade.
accountability, that takes all of it. It takes
Yeah.
everything there. So that's just a tiny little glimpse of that. You have had that your whole life, for sure.
Yeah.
Then at any point, do you ever feel like that accountability and discipline had you missing out on things?
I've never been a kind of a regretful person. I've never been in that woe is me because I missed this because I chose something else. I've always thought that you have a path, and there's path A and path B. I chose path A. I don't know what would happen if I chose path B, so why regret on it and why kind of dwell on that? But I would say that in life, any choices you make, you're going to miss out on things. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know. But I don't like to kind of dwell in that too much. But yeah, I can guarantee it. I mean, the decision that we made to make this meeting today at 10:30, maybe miss out on something. I guarantee it. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a good laugh with a coworker in the office. I don't know. Maybe my phone's ringing right now and it's the client that's going to give us $1 million. Hey, I don't know.
Better
But
get that call.
yeah,
We need it.
yeah. But the reality is that you pick the path that you pick to make the decisions you make, and you can learn from them maybe going forward. But I would say I'm not certainly going to dwell on it.
I know you guys do a lot of big physical intensity stuff. Do you guys ever dabble into the slower side of wellness, kind of like maybe yoga, meditating, stretches, things along those lines?
Yeah, we actually we have our Chamber of Commerce does like an auction every year, and you can purchase different packages from local businesses, and it's a fundraiser for them. We bought a breathing exercise, I'll call it, like a breathing class with one of our local businesses in Meadville, and you literally go into a room and you breathe for 30 minutes. And I say it like that because that's how I felt. It's like, okay, well, we weren't the ones that bought this package, and I'll be honest with you, I was the first one to say, like,
I brought this up in a podcast.
Did you?
And talked about it. It's a good story.
What are we doing? What are we doing this for? We got to go. We got to take a blanket. We got to take a pillow. I just was not. But at the same time, it was a local business. We're going to support them. It was something we did with our office staff. So as one of the leaders, it's like, all right, well, we're going to do this, and it's kind of a team building type of exercise. So you go into this room. This woman is talking to you. You're listening to this music that is, never music you've never heard before, and you're literally all you're doing is breathing. And again, if you've told the story, I don't need to go into the details, but I mean, the woman said that you might have some emotional responses to the breathing. And again, I'm thinking like, okay, all right, whatever, lady, like this is, I'm going to be thinking about work or whatever. And I got totally sucked in, and I was bawling through the whole thing. And just some sort of pent up whatever that was how it reacted for me, and ended up letting go, in the form of tears. And then by the end of it, you're nice and calm. And so I have never really been a believer of maybe much of that before that. But I can tell you after that experience, it's not something I want to do on a daily basis. It's not a weekly basis or anything like that. But I can tell you that I definitely am a believer in those type of things. And your body is so sophisticated. It knows what it needs if you can just give it the tools to exercise those things every once in a while. So I would say that, yes, I'm a full believer in you want to meditate how you want to meditate. You want to do yoga how you want to do yoga. I'm not a judgmental of any of that and never have been. But I am a full believer in that is definitely in everybody's own right way. I think that that's definitely for people. Again, maybe it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But I definitely am a believer.
Yeah, I don't get to partake in it as much as maybe I'd like to, or I would, or I should, but there's value. I've done yoga, really liked it, enjoyed it. It's great. You're a big stretcher. DJ's a hardcore stretcher. We have like an ongoing joke about if we have to go run at 5 a.m., he'll be there at 4 a.m. stretching. And then if we're done at 6, he'll be there till 7 stretching, because that's how he is.
I'm a son of a physical therapist.
He's a
That's how
son
I
of a
was.
physical therapist, so he's big into that. I'm not as much, but that type of stuff it all ties to recovery, I think, too. That's kind of part of that whole topic of it's important to recover and treat your body well, with the right fuel in your body and eating right and doing those relaxing things. But I probably need to uptick my involvement with them, but I do think they're all really important to do.
All right, so we definitely had a lot of time to find out a bit about both of you guys and your vibe and your plans of the company and the brand LLC. What does the future feel like to you guys? When you guys think of the future of Alpha Endurance, where do you guys see yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I see a big future for it. I think it may take a little time, but I think I've always had confidence in myself, and I have confidence in this company, and I have confidence in DJ that it's going to succeed and it can be something big, and we can take where we keep saying we live in a community where it's not at the forefront, we can make it at the forefront. So I would love to see someday that Alpha Endurance is able to be hosting 6, 8, 10 events a year that are of all different types of events, that they could be known as this is the health-based organization that can put on some great events for people to do exciting things and be able to take on a challenge. I just the general awareness of that type of lifestyle. I would love to think someday we could have some sort of coaching element to it where we can formally help people take those steps. Right now, again, it's just him and I doing what we love to do, being who we are and wanting people to get on board with that. But if it can be formalized as, hey, there's all these outlets in this community that we can do, and there's these individuals that can help us get to where we want to go, nothing would make me happier. In parallel to that, we've done a lot of things that involve raising some money for good causes. I would love Alpha Endurance to be, again, known as an entity that wants to give back, an entity that wants to support good causes and have philanthropic avenues to it. Each race and each event we're going to do, we're going to have it tied to a nonprofit and some sort of charity. I was able to do that in the past last year with an event, and it was fantastic. We're going to do it for our events next year and hopefully grow that where, again, we can be known as these guys take life serious. They take risks, get uncomfortable, take on whatever adventures in front of them, all while trying to support others, raise money for others and good causes. I mean, that would just be a feel-good path for the company.
Absolutely. Yeah, really can't say it much better than that. I mean, the sky's the limit, right? We're here, we're going to be doing these things on our own anyways, and we are both of the personality where we like to host things for others.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no reason why we can't host some of the things locally that maybe we travel for, and maybe it's on a different scale. But I think that we have the capacity, we have the availability, and we have the know-how to get some things done. And we just want to try to be more and more part of this community for now. And the sky's the limit. We've always said, ambitions are high, expectations are low. Right now our expectations are we're going to do a sprint try next summer. We're going to do a gravel bike race. At some point we're going to do a trail race. And but ambitions are much higher than that. So sky's the limit.
Who is Alpha? What makes up Alpha? Is there a team? Is it just you guys? Who is Alpha?
Yeah, I mean, Alpha, as DJ mentioned, started as a group of us training together, wanted to formalize it a little more. And right now it's a small, select group of people that like to get uncomfortable and, challenge themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we're the faces of it right now. There are certainly some people that are involved in the way of our group workouts. And, his sister, my wife, same person, is certainly help with marketing. We've got some other people involved as well with some of the, behind the scenes. This is going to be an undertaking on itself this summer when we take this triathlon, to the street, so to speak, and get it into motion. So we're going to have a whole team of people that are going to be helping us. Some of them don't know it yet, and some of them have already signed up. So we might be the faces of it, but there's going to be more certainly that are going to get added to it. So right now it's a group of people, small group that is just looking to challenge themselves.
We were told, or I was told by a lot of people, when it comes to an event or taking on a challenge or taking something on, it just takes the person willing to do it. That the opportunity's there. It takes somebody willing to do the work. And I instantly jumped on that and said, we're willing to do the work. We're willing to do what it takes. The first person I talked to about us hosting a triathlon locally, he was a downer. First guy, he said, oh, that's going to be hard. I said, well, no shit. I know it's going to be hard. Well, that's going to be this. I said, okay, I'm still going to do it. I knew we were going to do it the day I met with him, and it's already blossomed into really, really far down the road. So it just takes someone to do it, and I want Alpha Endurance to be the entity, the people that's willing to do it in this area.
What is Alpha? What's the acronym stand for? What are you guys all about?
Alpha stands for a life full of adventure. And it's something that the adventure part and life are big words obviously in there. And life is what it sounds like. It is a lifelong journey. This is not something that is a weekend travels. This is what we plan to do for the rest of our lives. So we've kind of put it into an LLC.
And, adventure, as DJ mentioned, a life full of adventure means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I look at an adventure of this is going to be something monumental, something hard, something that's going to be a goal, something that's going to take time and energy. So adventure can mean anything to a lot of different people. We have very different paths with what we do in life. We have a lot of similarities, but we coined and went with the life full of adventure based off, your adventure is your own unique path. It's what you want to do. It's just taken on. I look at it, like I said, from doing things hard. Someone might say, well, my adventure is this. It's not as hard as yours. It doesn't matter. It's you're making a lifestyle change, setting on these goals and chipping things off as you go.
So to your viewers out there, when they see this podcast, how do they sign up? How do they participate in the Alpha lifestyle?
Yeah, as we said, we have a few different avenues that are tied to it. We're going to be hosting events, so it'll be as simple as getting on and signing up for an event. We're both very open to dialogue and talking to people. Anyone's welcome to reach out to us anytime and say, hey, love what you're doing. Hey, here's a question. Hey, can we help? All welcome. Creating a podcast element to this, because I found a love of talking to people that possess what I consider similar qualities to myself, and that have the same vision and passion and hard work and dedication that is what this brand stands for. So I wanted to be able to sit and talk with these people, hear their message, hear them out, so that they may be relatable to someone down the road, where maybe I'm not relatable. Maybe they think I'm a jackass, or you're not relatable, but they happen to stumble across sitting and listening to Rose Carr, where it's like, this lady ran 4 100-mile races. She's done 40 marathons. She's doing 60 races this year. My stats may be off, but amazing. In her life story of, this is why I got here, this is what I do, this is who I am. They might say, I fit with Rose. Rose makes sense to me. Rose is relatable. So now they're engaged with, why is Rose there? Well, it's through Alpha Endurance. And then, hey, they have this race. They have this walk for charity. They have this idea. And then that may get people to want to be part of, the movement that we have. So that's just one other little element of it.
Yeah, and part of the community, right? We're trying to kind of somewhat create our own community through the brand of Alpha Endurance is basically the point. And we are going to try to do different things. And right now it's going to be local, and we're going to be focused on that to try to just grow that community and try to just continue to get the word out there.
Whatever you want to do is good. Doing something is good. People that are very focused on weight loss and wanting to have BMI indexes at a certain level, or love the gym, anyone can do anything they want. I have a path that fits for me, but no, this isn't something that I don't have a background. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't have a skill set in saying, I can make you lose weight. That's not at all what I'm trying to promote or hope people don't think. I think you will lose weight, likely, with this lifestyle change, the things that I'm in one of the better shapes of my life. I believe you probably are
Close.
too.
Yeah.
So it comes with it, but yeah, by no means are we trying to say Alpha Endurance get skinny now. I mean, that's not
Yeah, it's not a
that's
weight loss.
not what we're doing.
It's not a weight loss community by any
Some
means.
even say with endurance that it can somewhat go the opposite because you're burning so many calories, and then your cravings and what you can eat and how you eat, they really uptick. If you're just like doing endurance, that's why people talk about the value of strength training and lifting and muscular gain. Because if you're just doing cardio all the time, you want to eat like a tank, and it really won't help from a weight loss perspective.
Yeah. And I've wanted to eat like a tank before we started getting into these crazy races. Of course, I've done cardio my entire life. So that probably has helped with the metabolism. But I do joke on that end of it of, some people ask like, well, why do you do all this stuff? And my joking answer is because I like to eat. It's the best way to eat.
It is nice that
Yeah.
I don't focus. I try to eat whole
Yeah.
and eat healthy. But
Certainly you can eat healthy, but that doesn't mean you
Yeah.
can't eat a lot.
yeah,
You can't eat something good.
yeah.
You guys usually the chefs in the household? Are you guys usually the cooks?
I cook a lot.
Yeah, I don't cook a lot. Nope, don't cook a lot.
Another
at all.
difference.
For
Yeah, it's funny. DJ's had quite the evolution of his eating habits.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, to just somewhat touch on that, I was let's back up. I am a unique in some areas. There's no doubt about that. I kind of somewhat thrive on that a little bit, I think. But a lot of it is subconscious. It just kind of happens naturally to me. And I don't mind being unique either. I don't mind being the pink, white elephant, whatever in the room. It doesn't bother me. It never has. I don't seek the attention. I don't necessarily like it by any means, but it doesn't bother me. Never really has. So from an eating perspective, I really, and I still don't like vegetables. And I think that people say that they do like vegetables, I think are crazy. I don't think they actually like them. I think they just have known that they're good for them. But no, on a serious note, I really don't really enjoy vegetables by any means, but they are healthy for you. And things that are healthy for you are things that are good for you. And I want to be around for a really long time. I want to live for a long time. So I am interested in investing in the vessel that's going to get me there, and that's this body. So I am eating peppers. I'm eating broccoli. I'm eating a lot more vegetables than I have certainly, over the last 3, 4, 5 years than I did my entire life before that. So yeah, I have had a little.
I think a lot of it's processed versus unprocessed too.
Yeah, that
you're
too,
you're
for
doing
sure.
a lot.
For sure.
Some would argue vegetables aren't healthy. There's
Yeah.
people out there that I've
Sure, everything's
carnivore
not
diet and this
Yeah.
and that. But processed versus unprocessed, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
That's a change that's good for all of us. Try to eat whole.
And I guess my point of that whole thing was mindset for me, as far as meals go, are whatever you want to put in your body, you'll put in your body. So if you really want to have that sugary, fatty, whatever, then that's what you're going to have. I mean, it is what it is. But if you just make the mindset of, yeah, maybe I don't love the taste of this, but it's good for me and it's fuel, and you just take it down and move on. Like I guess I'm just of the mindset of whatever you want to do. It comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Whether you want to walk a mile or you want to run a ultra marathon or you want to do a full Ironman or a double Ironman. It doesn't matter. Like, you can do it if you want to. You got to put your mindset to it, and if you put your mindset to it, you're gonna do it. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Do you guys have any books that you would recommend to anybody as far as on the subject of discipline and accountability?
Yeah, that is a good question. I've read a handful of. I like that genre of book, that style of book. I generally like nonfiction. Rich Roll has a book that's really good. I can't think of the name of it, but it's about him running doing an Ironman on the 7 Hawaiian Islands consecutive days. Really good look into a challenge. Iron Cowboy is another good book that has the individual that did 50 Ironmans in 50 days. Pretty wild story there. I do like the Goggins book.
States.
Yeah, in 50 different states. There's a good. I like books like that are more on a story of a challenge and an undertaking rather than just a self-help book from maybe a doctor that explains something about your mind. Those are interesting. The book Molecule of More is basically a book that's all about dopamine. I think it's a really great book for someone to read to try to learn why your brain does what it does. So those are a few off the top of my head that I enjoy.
Yeah, I'm not good with book titles, but the book that Jocko Willink, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin did together, and then I think they did actually a sequel of it. It's more about leadership, I think, but it is a really good book about accountability. And I mean, accountability is just it's all over the place in that book, and
Yeah.
it's so clear. That was kind of my more of like light bulb moment about accountability for sure, of just like it's every aspect of your life. I mean, it doesn't have to be just one thing when it comes to health and fitness. The idea of I'm going to do some sort of physical activity. I'm going to plan to do it every single day, because guess what? Life happens and you're not going to be able to do it every day. So that's just a quote from him and from that book. On the entertaining side of things, but also still has a little bit of the the aspect of what we're talking about. I was really entertained and really took a lot out of Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Good book.
If you're gonna do it, again, some people don't love audiobooks. You got to listen to the audiobook. I think that anything that is of somebody that's in the entertainment industry, or that somebody that has that type of any value of I'll call them celebrities or whatever the case may be, if you can listen to their audiobook about themselves, you just get a lot more flavor. You get the feels and more emotions behind it. He puts spins that I guarantee there's no way you get it.
And he's got an amazing voice.
And his
I mean,
voice
Matthew
is amazing.
McConaughey
It's
is
the best
smooth
voice.
as smooth.
Yeah, it's the best voice there is.
It's a great book.
So yeah, so that is that's a good book. I mentioned it earlier. I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk guy. He's got multiple books out there that are all great. Some of them may be outdated, but certainly have their places in time. So I'm a big audiobook guy. I've also found that I've done less audiobooks and more podcast listening. Get a little bit more snippets, and you can change. In an hour podcast, you kind of get something different, opposed to an audiobook that lasts 7-8 hours of just one topic, so to speak. So.
All right. Well, I would say we're getting pretty close to wrapping. So, is there any final words for your viewers, like along the lines of maybe you guys could do this type of thing, or any motivational words, or just for anybody that's watching now? Everyone's getting the chance to meet you guys.
Yeah. To me, it jumped right to have confidence in yourself. Have confidence that you can make a change. There's a image out there that's floated around the internet that I've seen several times of an entire crowd walking this direction and one individual walking this direction. And I've always found that really interesting, and of just be willing to walk against the grain. It's okay. Be willing to do something a little bit different. I think that's what I would say of just, you're stuck in a rut and you're on Groundhog Day every day and just doing the same thing and going to bed a little unhappy, waking up a little unhappy. Take a step, try something different. This is the step that we are in, and it's no different or better than any other thing you want to try. But if you're interested in any of our story or any of our message, we'd love to talk, and it'd be like, hey, we'd love to support and be involved with people to just nudge them in a better direction.
Yeah, we've used the word authentic a lot here, and trying to find your true self. Sometimes that can be a really hard thing to do. I think that the first step is, I am unhappy with something that's going on. Maybe I don't know what that is. Maybe I'm not feeling fulfilled enough and need some sort of path. And I think that journey can be tough and it can be hard. And I think that one of the messages that we hopefully can bring to our community is that you're not going to probably find it in a 5-minute podcast or an hour book or 3-hour book or even a race that lasts 30 minutes. It takes time, and that's okay. It's okay that it takes time. It's okay that you don't know where you're going. It's okay that maybe you don't have, here's my 5-minute speech of this is my passion and this is my, arrow that I'm moving towards or moving down. I think that people just need to understand that things evolve, things change, and it can take time to get there.
So once the website's live, if anyone wants to reach out via the website, there will be some links on there and abilities to contact us. We want to volunteer. We want help with this. www.alfaendurance.com. It will be live here this fall, and you can reach out that way.
Alpha Endurance. Be authentic, be accountable, be disciplined.